On today's episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show, we're going to be talking about the Rockets preseason where they just went 3-1, and we had great showings from Alperen, Şengün, Jalen Green, and the rest of the core. So stay tuned to hear our analysis.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Like Brad said, we've been breaking down the 4 preseason games the Rockets just got done playing, kind of give like a season preview heading into the regular season and, recap everything we just got done watching. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. How we're going to, run the show today is we're just going to go player by player, talk about what we saw from them, with their games and what we saw on the court, how they kind of gel with other guys to, the good, the bad, everything in between. And just honestly overall general takeaways, heading into the regular season as well. But I think we should just go and start with Jalen Green. I think that's a perfect place to start.
I agree.
Brian, what did you see from Jalen Green in preseason?
Yeah, so I feel like everyone had a similar, analysis on him. I liked his processing. This summer he was training with a guy named Dash to slow down his game and make every single step count. And if you look at what he did, his shot selection was a lot better than the previous years. Every shot was pretty much in rhythm. It was in balance. It wasn't forced, and it really showed when you watch the games. He came out there and averaged 20.5 points a game, 63 true shooting percentage, shot 43% from 3 on 9 attempts a game, and none of these were necessarily bad shots. They were all pretty much open. You could maybe pinpoint one bad mid-range shot he took in this entire preseason, but outside of that, I thought his shot selection was really good, and he took what was given to him by defenses. I'm sure Will say this. I'd like to see him attack the basket a lot more. But I think the more pressure he gets on him, once he starts hitting those threes, he'll start to be able to drive past those guys and get to the rim a little more once he gets a little bit more respect out there. But no, Jalen, I loved all the shots he was taking. He benefited from guys like Steven Adams coming off of screens and taking the pull-up middies and pull-up three-point shots. I thought he was a little bit more engaged on defense. The stat sheets might not show it. And the last thing I'll say is, he was very efficient, but if you look at his preseason stats and see he averaged maybe half an assist a game, he averaged 1 assist a game. He was playing more of an off-ball role to a sense. And anytime he was coming off the pick and roll again, he was taking that open shot that the defense was giving him. So, if the defense wants to give him more pressure, maybe send doubles, then we'll see those assists start to come up. But he was really making the right plays. That 1 assist is not him necessarily being selfish. I thought he made the right plays. What would you say, Will?
Real quick, what did you said you're looking at the stats? What did he average from 3 and on how many attempts per game?
Jalen from 3?
Yeah.
9.3 attempts, and he shot 43.2%. So overall, he was 16 of 37.
Yeah, so that was gonna be where I started. It was I should go ahead and put like the precursor on everything that we're gonna say this episode, that it is preseason and it's a 4-game sample size. So you can't say that anything's definitive from a 4-game sample size of preseason. Now that being said, Jalen's jumper is the thing that first stands out to you immediately. Is it looks smoother. He looks a bit more comfortable and confident taking the jumpers, and they're going in. And that was something that, for as much as Jalen Green struggled last year, I think a lot of his struggles and the struggles of the team as a whole kind of come back to him not being a consistent jump shooter at all. He was, the new calendar year, he was actually really efficient at getting downhill and finishing at the rim. So that wasn't really the problem in this game. The problem was that he really couldn't make a 3. And I think that was one of the reasons why in March, when he exploded, it was because he was shooting, a ridiculous clip from 3. And so what I want to see from Jalen Green is, one, I love the fact that the jumper is consistent, and maybe it's just the basketball nerd in me. I want to see. I love the fact that he had I think he was 7 for 11 from 3 against the Spurs. I know that it's not going to be 7 for 11 every single night, right? So for me, it's just instead of being 7-11, if Jalen will shoot 7 for 11 every single night, I'm probably fine with. I would love that, but I know that's an unsustainably high clip to expect him to shoot every single night. For me, the key is stop turning the 1 for 11 nights into 4 for 11, or let's get some 3 for 8s in there. Let's stop having the pendulum be, nights where he just can't make a shot, and then nights where he can't miss a shot. I want to see where, if it's going to be one of the two. Obviously, I'd rather him make all the shots, but like I said, I don't think that's realistic to expect from him. So just finding that balance between, all right, I'm always making every shot. I'm 7 for 11, and then the balance between that and then, like I said, being 2 for 11, right? Because we've seen the pendulum on both of those things. Just finding that balance between both, and if he can do that consistently for an entire season, I mean, that's the breakout. That's the max contract. That's the player that this team has been missing for the longest time. So with that being said, I love what I saw from them in that department. Like Brad touched on, I think the only thing if I had to like really critique his game is I would love to see him get downhill a bit more. He was one, I think he took what the defense gave him, so I love that. There were times where we played a lot of drop in preseason, and so Jalen's coming off the screen, bigs and drop, rise up, take the three, and he was making them, right? So like I love that process. But I do want to see, because like I said, I don't know how much I don't want him to become too jumper dependent. I want it to be a good balance of both a jumper and using his athleticism and handle to get to the rim and finish there. And so yeah, that's if I just had to nitpick something, that's what I would say. But overall, I think he had maybe we can jump to Fred after this. I think outside of maybe Fred, he had the best preseason of anybody on the Rockets. So I don't know. That's all I have to say about Jalen. Do you have anything to add before we move on to Fred?
I'd like to see this carry over into the regular season. And
Yeah.
that's all I would say with Jalen. We know his issue is consistency in the past. And Udoka said, hey, man, if we're going to do this, let's start it from the jump. So
I mean, small sample size, but through 4 games, he's been incredibly consistent. So
yeah, so
started off right. I want to jump into Fred because I think that it's difficult for me to say who the best player was in preseason because I think the numbers might say it was Jalen, but I think that the impact that Fred VanVleet had and has on this team, that's the reason why I gave him MVP last year. It's the reason, I'll just jump and say it. We played 4 preseason games, 3 of which had Fred, 1 of which did not. Now, I will say that Thunder game, I will throw a bit of caution to in terms of reacting to it because 1, we did not have Fred VanVleet, and then 2, it's preseason, and then 3, OKC is probably going to have the best record in the NBA this year. They're probably going to have, if not the best defense, for sure a top 3 defense. And so a team struggling in preseason without their point guard against what's probably going to be the best defense and the best record-wise team in the NBA, as young as we are, that doesn't really I'm not, throwing oh my God, it's over and we got to panic. I'm not panicking over that. That's going to, as a matter of fact, maybe it's wrong. I think we're going to beat them once or twice this year because we somehow always beat OKC. And so that's just kind of how I feel about it. But the takeaway that I do take away from that game, though, is what I said. Fred VanVleet not being there made a huge difference. You saw how much the offense looked organized in the 3 games we had him, and in the 1 game we didn't. And so when I log on Twitter and I see people saying he's in the way of the young guys and we got to trade him to give this guy minutes or that guy minutes, I'm just I don't know if we're watching the same game because there's no way that you're thinking that Fred's in the way. There's no way you're thinking that he's holding somebody back. I think a lot of these guys struggle if Fred ain't out there, and we saw it against OKC. And then I want to say that I really had 0 issue with the way that Fred played. It's someone who last season I did have issue sometimes with his shot selection. I had no problem with anything he did in preseason. Honestly, I thought he picked his shots really, really well. I love the way that he ran the offense. He was very much in that true facilitator role, looking at to set the table, get guys their shots in their spots. I mean, Brad, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say he only threw 2 turnovers in all of preseason.
Yeah, he had an 11-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So
which is just absurd. And for a team that before we got Fred VanVleet, we saw how turnover prone we were, to kind of have that stabilizing act, someone who's going to get guys good shots and not turn the ball over in the process of doing so. Yeah, that's great. And I'll end my plan by saying this, something that we've been talking about in the playback, shout out the playback, recently is I think, at least for me, I looked at Fred when we signed him kind of under the lens of okay, he's making $40 million a year. He was an all-star, I believe, in 2021 or 2022. I think it was 2022. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like this is somebody who like should almost be. I'm not saying he should be a star, but like that's kind like he should be, for lack of a better term, right? This is a terrible way to put it. And but for lack of a better term, it's somebody who should be like an 88 overall on 2K. You get what I'm saying? Like that's the only way I can like.
It's a good way to put
This
it.
the only way I can. It's a bad example, but you get what I'm trying to say. And it's like I realized you have to stop looking at him through that lens. If you look at him through the lens of like a Drew Holiday, a Derek White, what's another good example of like a really good role player in the league? I don't know. But like instead of, once again using the bad example, instead of looking at him as the 88 overall, look at him as like an 84, 85, which I think actually is what he is. But if you start looking at it as like that's what he's supposed to be, like I'm not gonna lie, he's one of the best at that in the league. And like I start looking at it like he's just an elite role player. Or not, like I said, role player sounds disrespectful. Let me not call him a role player, but like he's an elite like non-star. And with that in mind, with what he brings to the table in terms of table setting, the way he's at with his off-ball ability, his defense, his active hands that are still there. I'm gonna be real. I'll end my plan by saying I want us to re-sign Fred after this season. Even hopefully it's on I don't want us to pick up his team option. He should not be getting paid. No, I think it's like 43 million. It's team option. I don't want that. But if we could negotiate a long-term deal with Fred for less money every year, I hope he retires a Rocket. I think that what he brings to this table, to this team, is like invaluable. And I would love to transition him into like a bench player when like Amin and Reed and all the rest of the guys are ready for the increased on-ball usage. So I'll let my play in there with Fred. I love what I saw from him in preseason.
Yeah, it made me look up his plus-minus numbers in the 3 games he played.
Insane. I know it is.
Really upset. I don't know if you saw it, but in his first game, he played 15 minutes, and he was a plus 11.
Yeah.
Second game, he played around the same amount. He was a plus 11 again. In the last game he played, he was a plus 26. So, I mean, damn near plus 50 in like 68 minutes in the preseason. So, I mean, you can't watch these Rockets games and say you don't like Fred VanVleet on this basketball team. We can sit here and say, Alperen Şengün is the best player on the team, 100%. Same with Jalen when he's on, best player on the team. Fred VanVleet is the most important player to this team. He is the quarterback. He makes everything flow. I mean, to go out there and it's the preseason, but he did it last year. 8.2 assists per game, only 1.7 turnovers. But we saw in the preseason, he threw 22 assists and only had 2 turnovers. So he's controlling the game perfectly. He's a game manager. He's an extension of Ime Udoka on the court. Sets the tone defensively as well. Gets a lot of strip steals. Again, like his importance is extremely valuable to this team. As Will said, I know when he signed that max contract, we're like, okay, 2 years, 2-year max and then team option, he's got to go. But I don't know if they pick it up, but if there's any way he can come back, I would love to see it because the Rockets, plain and simple, you can't deny it, are a better team when he's on the court. So I love what I saw from Fred this preseason. And I liked in that last preseason game, I loved Udoka's rotations, how he's going to be out there with the entire bench unit minus Cam. So it's going to be Reed, you got Amin, Tari, and Steven along with Fred. And that lineup was really nice to me. I like to see Fred quarterback that lineup. But yeah, I like what I saw from him. Will, a quick question, then we can move on. How many minutes would you like to see Fred play this year? Previously he's played around 36-ish a night. Would you like to see him around there as well?
No, he shouldn't. He should not be playing anything. Like the sweet spot for me is 31, 32.
I agree.
And I think that one, just in terms of Fred's longevity in the league, we cannot have him at that age with his knee issues playing almost 40 minutes a game like that. We just can't do that. But also, I think that the reason he had to play that many minutes last season was because a lot of our guys just were not as ready as we thought they were to kind of take over and lead this team. Mm-hmm. And so we got to run Fred to the ground if we want to stay afloat. And so to me, if we're running Fred to the ground this year, that means that someone or some people did not take the steps needed to kind of take us to the next level, which allows Fred to kind of scale it back, which is a problem. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that idealistically, Jalen Green kind of takes over. You were talking about the second unit, and one of the things I want to see, hopefully, that Udoka does this year is I would stagger Fred and Jalen. I would have one of those 2 guys on the court at all times.
Yep.
With that second unit, and just kind of have that dynamic going the entire season. And I think that'll be a way we can kind of keep Fred's minutes low, keep him fresh for the season. Yeah. So no, I don't want to see him play. I pray to God he don't play no 36 minutes a night this year.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But next, I'll assume we could just jump to Alperen Şengün.
Yeah,
on that list of priorities. So yeah, Şengün, I liked what I saw from him this preseason. I don't have his stats pulled up immediately, but I can look at him really quickly. I mean, 16.8 points per game in the preseason. He only played 24.5 minutes a night. Had 7.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists. He shot 2 for 6 on his 3-point attempts. And what was most important, going into that last game, he was shooting 90% from the free throw line on
what did he finish?
Around 8-ish attempts a night. And the last game he went 2 for 6. So he finished shooting 77.8%, which is still an 8% increase over what he did last year. And again, it's a 4-game sample. But the Rockets did send coaches out to Turkey this year to work on his free throw shooting and his shooting in general. So what I saw from him, he came into camp in a lot better shape. He looked a lot more active. I didn't think he looked bad defensively. I thought he was out of position a few times on that pick and roll. They're going to have to work on that. But that would be my only real critique is Alperen Şengün in that pick and roll. Outside of that, I loved what I saw from him on offense. Ridiculously efficient, 77 true shooting percentage. Easy work in the post. The drop step looks really clean. He has a new sweep through move, which you see a lot of players do in the NBA. When he's driving, you keep the hands low, ball low, and get those defenders to swipe down. And he was getting a ton of free throws off of that alone. And yeah, he was converting the free throws. So I liked what I saw from him. I'd like to see him utilize that mid-range shot a little more, the post fade if it's there, and to continue to shoot that 3 ball with confidence. Udoka wants to see that, and that opens up the floor for everybody if he's able to hit that 3. And it even opens up the floor for himself. If defenses can respect that pump fake he likes to throw from out there, he's going to be able to drive past it and make something a lot more happen, even though he's able to do that regardless, even without that jump shot. But even when it's there, he's going to be ridiculous. But I expect a improvement from last year, which is saying a lot because he was 21, 9, and 5 as a 21-year-old. So I think he'll be better than that this year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I thought he kind of picked up right where he left off last season. So one, it's good to see him healthy. It didn't even dawn upon me that the first preseason game we saw from him was the first time we saw him play since he got hurt against, I think it was the Kings. So
right.
It's good to see no setbacks. He's good. He looks just as dominant as he did the last time we saw him. I guess the funny thing I'll say, because Brad touched on, I think the free throw thing is important. The pick and roll defense could be better. I want to see him shoot, like you said, with more confidence. I love the fact that he came back and he looks like he's confident, but keep letting him fly. I would love to see him get to where he's taking 3 a game. That would be great for me.
I agree.
But the biggest thing that I'll say from him is going into that last game against the Spurs, I was watching the game and I'm like, okay, he's been out of place a couple of times defensively. He's missed some free throws. And I'm like, it doesn't look like he's been as dominant as he usually is. And then I checked the box score. I think at the time he had 18 and 10 or something like that on 60-something true shooting. And it's even the games where Şengün, per his own standards, doesn't look as dominant, you check the box score and he's still putting up an absurd stat line. And that's why it just makes me laugh sometimes. It's just he's just comically good at basketball. That even when it looks like he's struggling, you look at the stat sheet and he's a +6 or something. He's just doing something crazy out there. I think that one thing that I want to see change is not actually with him, it's with the rest of the team. And I get it's preseason, so guys are working on their games. And we're trying stuff, we're experimenting because it is a risk-free environment for the most part, consequence-free environment. I did want to see Şengün get the ball more than what he did because just as always, 90% of the time he touches the ball in the post, a good thing happens. And I feel like sometimes we're kind of overcomplicating it by trying to do too much. Sometimes it's as simple as getting the ball to your best player and letting him make the play. And so that's really that's not even a critique with Şengün. That's a critique with the rest of the team. But yeah, I would love to see him get the ball a bit more. But like I said, I get it was preseason. It's probably not how it's going to be in the regular season. So yeah, that's what I have to say. But great preseason from Şengün. It was like he was out there coasting and he was dominating while coasting. So that's to me that's a good sign. We can pivot. Let's talk about twins. Let's talk about Amin Thompson next.
Go
You
ahead.
know what I'm saying?
Go ahead.
That's that's my guy. I want to say first that I know people were like really discouraged by his point guard minutes against OKC. I get same thing. I give pause to like everybody who struggled with that game. One, because we didn't have our point guard, but two, OKC is probably going to be the best defense in the entire NBA. So for me, Amin Thompson not looking the best at point guard against that team doesn't really move me. And what kind of I should have looked it up for the purpose of this show, but there was a matter of fact, when Brad you talk, I'll go look it up. But there was like a 5 or 6 game sample pre All-Star break where Fred kind of just got rest days. And Amin started at point guard. And I think we might have went 2-3 or 3-2 in that time frame. Actually, might have been less than I don't even remember. But
they went. It was the stretch. It was the stretch when Fred first got hurt.
It was like right before the All-Star break.
Oh no, yeah, they went like 0-5 in that stretch.
They went 0,
but they won all those games.
You good, yeah. But I also remember, didn't we might have played some really good teams at that point in time. But the point I was going to make is that Amin did not look terrible. Like I said, I look at the numbers when Brad goes, but he did not look bad at that in that sample. It was 5 game sample size, but he didn't look bad at point guard there. So like, I'm not really like if you had stock at Amin playing a ball handler role for the Rockets, not just saying playing point guard, but just playing a ball handler role for the Rockets. I know people kind of get tripped up in the difference between like a point forward and a point guard. I don't think that game should have dissuaded you. I think you should feel the exact same way that you did going into it. That's how I still feel like that's, I think his handle still needs improvement, obviously. But I still believe he's going to get there eventually. Now, that being said, the positives, he's just as impactful as he's always been. I'm still grabbing rebounds. He's still one of, I think he's the best defender on the team. And I think he should make an all-defensive team if he plays enough this year, just because there's not that many guys who are as versatile and special defensively as he is. There's a funny play we talked about in the playback where he's guarding Brandon Ingram, which I also want to note that Ime Udoka is letting, when Amin's on the court, Ime is letting Amin guard the best player on the other team. Something I notice a lot, especially like even when Dylan's on the court. I thought that Dylan would like get seniority there and draw the defensive assignment, but Ime gave it to Amin, which I think is the right play, because I think Amin's the best defender on the team. So Amin was checking Brandon Ingram, and we all know how BI's game is. He wants to lull you to sleep, get to the middle of the court, pump fake. When you jump, he's going to rise over you, shoot it again. That's his game. And so Amin is guarding him, and I'm like, I know the pump fake's coming. Stay on your feet, Amin. He pump fakes, Amin jumps. I'm like, man, you was playing such good defense. Like, you got to stay on your feet when Brandon got the ball in the midi. Somehow, some way, Amin jumps a second time before BI gets the jumper off. And I don't know if he blocked the shot or if he can. Did he block it, Brad?
He did.
He blocked. Yeah, he blocked it. And it's just like that's not. I want people to understand how like uncommon that, like how not normal it is to be that athletically gifted and that good of a defender. Like that is not normal by any stretch of the imagination. So to see him, be still as dominant defensively, still getting the rebounds. One thing I love the team is doing, and it's something that I love about Fred VanVleet, is they're getting in transition off defensive rebounds. They're letting the men bring the ball down the court because he's quick. He gets down there. He throws the lobs to Jalen. He throws the lobs to Tari Eason. And usually a good thing happens when Amin Thompson has a head of steam heading downhill. And so I love the team's kind of exploiting that he is probably the best athlete on a team full of super athletes. And that a lot of guys feed off it. I think Jalen Green plays better when he has another guy out there who can run 1,000,000 miles per hour with him. And I think we saw that in transition in preseason. And so I'll end my plan by saying, Brad, real quick, how many minutes a night did Amin play in preseason? If you're looking,
Amin only played 23 minutes a night.
Yeah, and I want to see that number look closer to 25. If he's not starting, my hot take is I think he should just start right now. I think he should start at one of the wing spots today. But if he's not going to start, I think he has to play at least 25 a night, because I think he's just way too good to just not play at all. So, or not play at all, but to only play 20 minutes a night. I think he's a lot better than that. Now, mind you, it also was preseason, so guys aren't playing a full 30 minutes a night anyways. Guys aren't closing. But yeah, I want to see him play more than 23 minutes a night. That's where I let my play.
Yeah, so I put up those stats for you, Will. So in his first 5 games, he averaged 11.
You said first 5, or this is the
first 5 starts.
Okay.
Last year, he averaged 11 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So
What was
yeah,
the? You had the true shooting on you?
I don't have the true shooting on me,
Okay.
but I'd imagine it was in the 60ish range. That's where he usually lies. But yeah, so what I saw from him in the preseason, I loved watching him play. And again, he did struggle against OKC when he was on ball. The handle just has to improve, and obviously, defenses aren't really going to respect his jumper. Even though OKC exploited that, I'd imagine most teams should play him that way. But I did like what I saw from him off ball, and especially when he was playing with Fred VanVleet in those units. He's a really good cutter. He's a smart player. He knows where to be on the basketball court. And defensively, as Will mentioned, he might be the best defender on his team right behind Steven Adams. Not Steven Adams, I'm sorry, Tari Eason. Those two guys together are a ridiculous tandem. I enjoyed watching those two on the floor create havoc. But yeah, Amin, he's going to be a force in transition this year. He's going to be that guy you could throw on anybody defensively 1 through 5. He's just that versatile and he's that valuable. And it's hard to see him only get 22 minutes. And now you'd love to see him around the 30ish range. But realistically, I'd love to see 25 enough from him. Ime Udoka is a smart coach. And we're going to get into it later. They have 10 guys who should be in this rotation, but it's looking like it's going to be more so 9-ish. And I can see Amin benefiting from that a lot. So I loved what I saw from him in the preseason. I like that he made 2 of his 3-point attempts. One of each in the last 2 games. Just keep shooting that shot, keep working on it. And midi needs to come along as well. So it's good to see, him, progressing in that area. But again, it's the preseason. But yeah, 40%, and that's not going to stick, obviously. But it is good to see him hit those 2 threes. But
what did you shoot for free throw?
I wasn't going to bring that up, but we should. It's a podcast. We should talk about everything. He shot 44% on 2.3 attempts a night in the preseason. So he's got to make his free throws. The whole team was awful from the free throw line. I was looking at that while you were talking, Will.
The whole team was bad?
The whole team was bad. Outside of, Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks and Şengün is the top 3.
Fred was bad?
Fred was like 60% or something like that. He should shot like 6 for 10 from the line. Yeah.
It goes to show you preseason's a low sample size, man.
Yeah, literally everyone was below 70% outside of Jalen, Şengün, and Dylan Brooks.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's preseason. But yeah, so I love what I saw from Amin. I'll swing to back.
Before you go, I did look at. So I just filtered for just any game.
He started.
Amin played without Fred VanVleet at the point guard. Okay. He averaged. It's an 8-game sample size. He played. I'll round up here. He played 35 minutes, 14 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and he had a 61 true shooting. So like he plays pretty well. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't look at that one sample and say like, oh, he's cooked. That's it for him. Like he's played pretty well as a starter without Fred VanVleet before. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't invest too much into that one game and say it's over for him. I think he's a work in progress. Obviously, like I don't think he's a finished product. I don't think he could play point guard full time. But I love the way the Rockets are using him, where he is kind of splitting those ball handler duties on the bench with Reed and with Reed. He's him and Reed are splitting the ball handling duties, and I think that's how it should go this season. We can jump to Reed if you want.
Yeah, we can jump to Reed. I was gonna we'll get to the rest of the starting lineup later, but I liked what I saw from Reed. If you can look at his splits and see he shot 44% from the field, he only shot 18% from 3. Those things aren't going to stick. Reed is a shooter. He actually didn't even make a free throw in the preseason. I think he shot 1 attempt and missed it. But yeah, he's coming in as this generational shooter in college by college standards. Shot over 52% from 3. Was again ridiculously efficient. So I expect that to carry over eventually. I'm not worried about that. Will and I just talked about this off camera. More so looking at the processing skills. More so than the box scores, and I liked what I saw from Reed Sheppard overall. I thought the defense looked pretty solid. You could tell he's been learning a lot for Fred VanVleet, and these are things that he did at Kentucky as well. A good reason why Udoka and Stone wanted to bring him in. He's a pesky defender. He knows where to be. He's really good at passing in transition, which fits with a very athletic team. And you saw it. He had quarterback passes out to Amin Thompson. He's throwing them out to Jalen Green. It's a good fit for him on this basketball team. And that mid-range shot, man, he shot 6 for 8 from mid-range. And you just look at the shots, and it's just a gorgeous jump shot. It's one of the most beautiful jump shots you'll see in the NBA. So he's got that whenever, and it's good to see The Rockets have one of those mid-range killers in the NBA. So I think Fred's going to be really good. Not Fred. I was about to jump to Reed is going to be really good, and it's great to have Fred as a mentor because when Reed does take that role in the future, I think he's gonna piggyback that perfectly off of what Fred has been doing. So I like what I saw from him, and I expect that jump shot to be there. Again, low sample. I'm not worried about his shooting splits at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know what the numbers say, but the midi looked pretty good.
Yeah, 6 for 8.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that it matched the eye test.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he plays very, like, obviously I think he's gonna have like the first game jitters. He has to kind of get out of his system because I mean that's just how it is. It's your first time playing in the NBA. You're gonna be a little bit nervous. But even with that, I thought he looked very composed and under control. He didn't look he didn't look sped up at all. Actually, he looked like he was playing at his own pace, playing his game. I feel very confident with the ball in his hands, which is not something that I think you would say too often about a rookie point guard. But I do. I feel like we could put the ball. Like I think Fred could go down. Like when he can go down for a whole season. You know, hopefully he doesn't knock on wood. But I think Fred could go down for a game, and I would trust that. You know, if we're not playing a super defense, I think Reed could kind of step in and facilitate the offense on a one game basis. From what I've seen in preseason so far, I think that, and this might be a hot take. I don't know. I think that Reed might have Fred beat in the skip pass category. I think he's better at throwing those skip passes than Fred is. He has to jump to throw them, which is kind of funny, but they get there, and they're very on target when he gets them there. And I think that's gonna unlock a different dynamic of the offense that we haven't really seen so far because we don't really throw that many skip passes. So yeah, I love what I saw from Reed Sheppard. I know that the box score may not necessarily say that he played the best in terms of like his points, rebounds, assists. But like Brett said, I think that's a perfect example of when I say process is better than results, because I think that he played, even though the box score may not say it, I think Reed Sheppard played really, really well in preseason. I'd say that he was one of the few guys who had a very I think even in the OKC game when everybody struggled, I thought Reed looked pretty good. So yeah, like I love what I saw from Reed Sheppard in preseason. I think it's pretty clear he's gonna get a lot of minutes from the Rockets from day one. I was kind of questioning if he was going to play that much from the jump. We'll talk about why he's probably going to play a bit more than I thought later on. But yeah, he's going to play, and it looks like he's earned Udoka's trust already. Like I'm just matter of fact, I'll stop here. Right, you know how many minutes he played per game?
21 minutes a night.
Yeah, so that once again matches kind of the eye test. So yeah, I love what I saw from Reed.
Yeah, last thing I'll say on that note, again, you can just look to that last game, which was the dress rehearsal game, and Reed had the most played minutes of the entire bench unit in that first half and through the third quarter as well. So that goes to show you that he has, in fact, earned Udoka's trust. And we might as well jump to Cam Whitmore right now because on that same topic, Cam looks like that 10th guy in the rotation. Again, the Rockets have a really good 10-man rotation, and Will and I were questioning how they're going to run a 10-man unit. But it looks like in that Rockets dress rehearsal game, Cam was getting the short end of the stick. He only played 6 minutes in that first half, and he didn't play in that third quarter as well. And it looks like that's probably what's going to end up happening in the regular season. The Rockets are going to run a 9-ish, 10-man rotation with Cam not getting too many minutes, maybe just at the start of the second. And if he plays good enough, maybe at the start of the fourth as well. Udoka, he's an eye test kind of guy. He's going to run that fourth quarter based on who's playing well that night. So we'll see what happens with Cam. I like Cam as a basketball player. He is just 20 years old. He fits the team. He's a defender. He's a shooter. He's a great cutter. But the processing skills still has to improve with him. The shot selections can be erratic at times. And again, just not necessarily making the right play at the right time. But again, he's a young kid. I think he still has a really bright future. And it just doesn't surprise me that he's not getting a lot of minutes on this current team. But yeah, if he wants to earn more minutes personally, just think the shot selection just has to improve. He's a really good catch and shoot player. He was last year. He shot over like 45% for most of the season on catch and shoot threes. And again, he should be able to cut off of a bunch of these really good, skilled passers that the Rockets have now. And again, 6'7", good frame, should be a really good defender too. So ideally, he should fit on this team very well, but maybe he's not on this current timeline of the Rockets, that's trying to win like 50 games to hit the playoffs. So some of those processing skills have to come along a little further. That's just my current opinion on Cam. Again, I think he has a bright future. I think he's going to be a hell of a basketball player. Just this point in time, he's very young on a team trying to excel. What would you say, Will?
Yeah, when I initially made my prediction on the minutes, the reason why I had Reed kind of getting the short end of the stick was because I thought that Cam Whitmore would be more ready for minutes than what he was. And then it started kind of, started looking more and more like, yeah, he may not be as ready as I thought he was. And then like preseason, once again, small sample. Don't want to draw too many definitive conclusions from it, but a lot of the same questions and concerns I had from Cam ending last year were still there. Like Brad said, it's the decision making for me that kind of gives me concern with him playing. He'll take an ill-advised shot, and like it's both a good and a bad thing at the same time. That Cam is just so talented that sometimes those bad shots go down, or he'll take a dunk that, like the poster he had against Utah. I stand on it. That's not a good shot, man. He should not have shot that, or he should not try to dunk that.
I like that one.
I do not like that. Bro, he jumped from like the free throw line extended, and was it Walker Kessler? Was that who it was?
Walker Kessler, but I like it only because Walker Kessler was not standing his ground. He was back.
Walker Kessler was at like the inside semicircle, man.
Yeah,
and that's a good rim protector. I don't like that. Because I feel like if he misses it, we feel a bit different about it. And to me, that's kind of how I feel. Like if the shot that you just made, if you missed it, would I have been happy with that shot? And the answer to that question is I would not have been. So for me, it's both good and bad that he's such an insanely good basketball player that he can make stuff like that. But it's also like those are the kind of attempts that, like I said, when he doesn't make them, which happens, it's like, all right, like that wasn't the shot there. And I think we saw that as preseason went on. He took some shots that weren't the best shots. They didn't fall. And so for me, it's just more about, for him, it's more about the process of like taking smart shots, playing within the flow of the offense, not being a ball stopper. Like I said, I'm never going to ask Cam to make a high-level read, but I will expect you to make the basic one standing next to you. And I didn't see a lot of that in preseason. And so, and I think that's one of the reasons why Udoka did not play him as much. I think that's why. And I think Brad's right. I think that how they're going to use Cam this year is I think they're going to play a traditional 9-man rotation. I think what's going to happen is maybe late first quarter, early second quarter, I think Cam was going to check in. Y'all remember how Mike D'Antoni used to use Gerald Green, and was that 2018? Yep. I think we're going to use Cam Whitmore very similar to that, where he's like the spark plug. You play him, you kind of test the waters with him early in the game, and if that's a night where his jumper is just money, he's taking these ridiculous shots and they're going in, those are nights where he gets to play a little bit more. You play 6 minutes, and in those 6 minutes, if the jumper is not falling, the process isn't there, it's not looking good. All right, well, we're gonna play the rest of the game. You're gonna sit on the bench for the rest of the game. I kind of think that's how it's gonna go. And honestly, with what I've seen so far from Cam Whitmore, that's probably how he should be used. So, but like Brad said, he's 20 years old. He has time to figure it out. But as of right now, that's kind of where I'm at with Cam.
Yeah, and we have 4 more players to talk about. So let's just jump to another guy in the young coach. We'll jump to Jabari. I'll let you go first. What did you think about what you saw from him?
He was another guy who, like, if I had to say the 2 guys who kind of disappointed me the most through preseason, it would be Cam and Jabari. And I think Bari is another guy who, like, for real, is process over results. I think his box score actually looks pretty solid. But for me, I wanted to see, when we drafted Jabari Smith out of Auburn, the idea was that, right, there was Paolo Banchero, who was the 6'10", 3-level scorer who had like some playmaking chops. And then there was Chet Holmgren, who was the 7-footer, same thing, could score from all 3 levels, but he could also like anchor your defense, right? And so like it was like, okay, those are, like, I just described 2 really good basketball players, and you've seen what they've done in the NBA. They've been incredible. And then so like for me, it was like I thought Bari wasn't in that same tier as those 2 guys, but it's like, okay, even though he may not necessarily be that, he could still be like, I could see the argument for it if it's like, okay, look, this is a 6'10", 6'11" guy who's going to come in and be an elite floor spacer, shoot high 30s, low 40s from 3. And then he would also be someone who could like guard 1 through 4, like the ultimate switch defender. And so far, that's kind of not who Jabari has been. And what concerned me in preseason, same thing, it's preseason, it's small sample size, is it looks like that's not even how he wants to play. And it looks like he wants to play kind of like early 2010s LaMarcus Aldridge. And it's like that play was one, LaMarcus Aldridge was like elite at that. That's what made him so good. But also there's a reason why like that play style isn't as prevalent anymore. The game has changed a lot. That's not really how basketball is played in 2024, 2025. And I don't really think that's what this team needs. I think we need Jabari to be a spacer because there's not that many guys on this team who can shoot, as well as Jabari can. So I counted it yesterday. I think he took like either 10 or 11 threes total. Right, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, he took 10 threes total.
10 threes. So yeah, so he played, that's 2.5 a game. And like, that's not enough. He needs to take more than 2.5 threes a game. And the reason why he's not taking that many is because he keeps trying to post up. And I'm not a huge post offense kind of fan. If your name is not like Alperen Şengün right now, I kind of need you to space the floor. And I think he could time his cuts a bit better. Now that being said, the positives, I thought he was still a great rebounder. He was, when he did, I didn't even say he didn't shoot that well from three, but like I said, for me, it's just I want to see him space more. I want to see him kind of not time his cuts. If he's going to cut, time him a little bit better. I said Fred threw 2 turnovers, and one of them was because Bari cut when he wasn't supposed to cut. Man, Jalen threw one too. It was a turnover where Jalen thought he thought Bari was going to be in the corner. Bari cut, and it's like, well, we need you to space. And so Jalen threw a turnover too there. So yeah, that was kind of what I saw from him. But like I said, it's preseason, and like I remember last year, Şengün looked really rough in preseason. And so like I'm not gonna say that it is cooked for Bari, but like I said, it is process over results for me. And like, yeah, I need to see him shoot more than 2.5 threes a game. I need to see him space a bit more than what he has been. Time his cuts a bit better. And yeah, that's kind of what I saw from Bari in preseason.
Yeah, most importantly, again, Bari came in as this 3-and-D guy, so I'd like to see him convert his threes. He had low sample size preseason, but yeah, he shot 20%. He only hit 2 of his 10 attempts from 3, and they were kind of left, they were kind of right, they were short, they were long. Like I said, preseason, but I'd like to see him knock those down. And Will mentioned it, shameless plug here. We run our playback stream, so we watch these games together. I get to hear his thoughts as we're watching, and Will pointed out, like, why is Jabari not on the 3-point line here? Why is he in the paint
5 times a game?
And so I went back and really watched it, and there's times where Bari is kind of crowding into the paint while someone is kind of at the top of the key, maybe cutting or heading to the paint. And it's almost better off if he's just kind of chilling in the corner waiting for a kick-out pass. He's almost like he's in the way. There's times they cut. There was a play last game where
it was a good cut. It was Şengün.
The key, and then Şengün hit Jabari for that wide open cut. That's a perfect time to cut. But there's other instances, and y'all would need to go back and watch them, where it's almost like he's kind of crowding the paint. Like, my man, you kind of got to hang at the 3-point line in this scenario, and do what you were drafted to do. Do what your strong suit is. Knock down those threes. That's your game, man. So, yeah, I liked what he was. He was a good offensive rebounder. He led the team in offensive rebounding this preseason. Eye test shows that well. He was doing good. He's playing a little bit stronger at the paint. As you can tell, he's muscled up this offseason. And I wasn't necessarily – I can't pinpoint a play defensively where I was kind of pissed off at him. So I think I thought he played really solid defense as well. And that's impressive.
Off-ball better, but yeah.
Yeah. Off-ball be better. On-ball, for a 6'11" guy, man, he was guarding every position out there. So this is another guy who's only 21 years old. A lot of improvements to be had. And, again, a lot of these Rockets guys are so young and raw. But to see these improvements already, it's great to see. So Jabari, once that 3-point shot is falling and we kind of find his spot on the court, I'm really excited for him. I thought he also, some more positives. I thought he made a few good passes. And, yeah, I know he's working on keeping that ball closer to the ground when he's driving. I saw that on a few instances as well. So, yeah, more so just knowing his role offensively and knocking down those threes. Hopefully he can become he shot 36% last year. Hopefully he can get that to 38 or 40 this year. But, yep, 3 more guys will round out the starting lineup. We have Dylan Brooks left, Tari Eason, and Steven Adams. Let's just finish it off with Dylan Brooks. I thought Dylan Brooks, I'll keep it short here because I just win again. But yeah, Dylan Brooks, he had an awful first quarter against OKC. He didn't play the first game. Awful first quarter against OKC. But outside of that, he shot 1 for 5. Will pointed out before the show. Yeah. After that, his stats as a whole, he had 54, 50, 1,000 splits with like a crazy true shooting percentage. So Dylan Brooks was actually really good. That catch and shoot shot is real. It actually looks a little tweaked. It looks a little different than it did last year. So it shows the importance of Dylan Brooks. I mean, guys, they want to trade Fred. They want to trade Dylan. Why are these guys here? I mean, look, these guys are valuable to this Rockets team. They're the real vets along with Steven now. And these are guys that you kind of need in the rotation. So I liked what I saw from Dylan a lot, just to keep it short. As long as he's sticking to those catch and shoot shots, he's not really forcing anything. Nothing erratic in the post. I know they like to expose those younger guys when Dylan gets the ball in the post. But if he's going to do that, just, drop your shoulder and head to the basket. But I don't need anything ridiculous coming from those post-ups. And we've seen some bad shots from those post-ups. So great preseason from Dylan. That's all I wanted to touch on with.
I don't really see why I loaded onto my TL and saw so much Dylan Brooks vitriol, because I thought outside of that first quarter against OKC, I thought he was actually pretty good. The off-ball defense, same thing with Barr. I think Dylan fell asleep quite a lot off-ball in preseason. Outside of that, kind of don't really have I don't have too much to say on Dylan. I think he played how Dylan Brooks is supposed to play. He was a good defender. He made the shots that came his way. Once he kind of slowed down and let the offense flow come through him, I was satisfied. Only thing I can just really critique is I do want to see him maybe try to be less of an initiator and more of a play finisher than what he's been. But I mean, it didn't really hurt us that much anyway. It really hurt at all, honestly. So that's really, I'm just nitpicking. But I thought Dylan, I don't really get the Dylan Brooks hate right now. Maybe later on, but as of right now, I thought he's done what he was supposed to do. So yeah, he has to stay. I'll go to Tari. That's another easy one. Tari did not look as Tari Eason as we know he can, because I think he's playing himself back into game speed from the injury. That being said, I thought Tari looked great. I thought that the game kind of changed the moment that Amin, Tari, and Steven Adams checked into the game. Matter of fact, Brad, didn't you have a stat on that lineup or something like that?
Yeah, so they played 11 minutes together, and they were plus 13. They outscored San Antonio 39-26.
Jeez. Yeah. So yeah, I thought the game kind of changed the moment Tari checked in, and so he's still playing himself into game speed, but he's still the same Tari Eason that we fell in love with his rookie year, crashing the board, making plays on defense, getting out of transition, just being Tari Eason. And so I love to see him just get back on the court after missing pretty much all the last season. Just being able to get back out there is a blessing in and of itself. But to still go out there and be able to impact the game the way that we know he can, I know he's gonna look even better as he plays himself back into game speed, back into game shape. I love what I saw from Tari Eason.
100% agree. Yeah, Tari, slow start in that first game against OKC, but as Will mentioned, in that last game, I mean, we saw who Tari Eason, he really is. And from jump, we saw him and Amin causing havoc together. He's just a crazy on-ball defender, off-ball defender. Gets a ton of steals. He hits a 3-ball, and he also had a really nice play out of the pick and roll where he dished it to Steven Adams for a nice dunk. So Tari, he's gonna have a huge on-off impact on this team. I already know it. Just even with that lineup they put him in, he's gonna be out there. I'm telling you, the trio of Amin, Tari, and Steven Adams, three guys who dominate on the offensive boards, defensive boards too, but primarily the offensive boards. They're gonna be everywhere. They're gonna stand out. They're gonna stick out. They're gonna run in transition, and it's gonna really benefit this Rockets team a lot. They're gonna win a lot of games just because of that trio coming off their bench along with Reed Shepherd too. So I loved what I saw from Tari. Again, it's a guy who can shoot the 3-ball. He's gonna just cause havoc whenever he's on the court. So it's great to have him back. But yeah, lastly, the Rockets now have a backup center. Shout out to Jock Landale. He ended last year on a very high note. Now he is the third-string center. The Rockets last season traded 3 second-round picks and Victor Oladipo for Steven Adams. And now we're already seeing the benefit of that trade. Steven's recovered fully from that injury. It looks like he probably lost a step speed-wise. He looks ridiculously slow. But despite that, his impact is through the roof already. He's a high IQ player. He can pass it from the elbow. He averaged 7.3 boards in like 15 minutes a night or something. Probably less than that.
Yeah, it might have been less.
Yeah, like 14.7 minutes a night. It was getting 7 rebounds. His defense was there. His presence is known. He's the strongest player in the NBA. You can ask any NBA player, and they'll tell you the same thing. So it's amazing to have Steven on this team. Again, another veteran with a bunch of young players, 23 and under. That's the rest of the 7-man rotation outside of Fred and Dylan. So having Steven in there is really going to benefit them. I believe he's a top 3-4 backup center in the league. If you want to count Nas Reed, Isaiah Hartenstein, and possibly Andre Drummond, but I'll probably put Steven.
He's better. Well, maybe he's not.
Drummond just gets, I think he had like 20 boards yesterday, like 20.
Yeah, we'll see.
I would still put, again, not getting into the specifics. He's going to be huge for Houston this year. So I'm happy to have a real backup pick.
I mean, I won't reiterate a lot of what Brad said. I think that obviously the screens is the biggest. The screens in the rebounds are like the biggest way he's going to impact the game. Like Brad said, he is a step slower, and I question how much of that is because he's playing himself back into game speed, and how much of that is because like injuries have zapped him of his athleticism. It's probably a combination of both, somewhere in the middle. So I do want to see that kind of continue to improve as the season progresses. But screens are great. The rebounds are great. Like I said, the team turned up the moment that him and Min and Tari got on the court. So I think that bench unit is really going to give us some life and some energy this year. And then like the biggest thing for me is just like last game against San Antonio, Şengün fouled. I don't know. I don't know if he fouled out, but I know he had like 5 fouls.
He had 5 in like the early third.
Yeah, he had 5 really, really early fouls. And like last year, right? Just go sit down, Şengün. Jeff Green checks in, or we go small ball with Jabari at the 5, and it's like now we don't have we don't have a backup center because Jacques wasn't ready to play. And I think that hurt us a lot of times. Like those are the type of games where we would lose. Well, now it's like if Şengün gets into foul trouble, we have somebody who can come out there and actually like play some center minutes for us and keep us afloat. He can set screens, he can still get the boards, he can still, like I said, impact the game defensively. We're not. I'm gonna say we're not gonna lose a beat because Şengün's obviously the better player, but I think Steven Adams can kind of keep us afloat in those minutes where like Şengün's either hurt or foul trouble, needs a rest day, whatever it is. I think Steven Adams can kind of pick up the slack for us in that department, which is going to make us an even better team because we played pretty much all of last year without a real backup center on the roster. So yeah, that's just another way I think we're going to be better this season. That's it for like at least the players. For all I say, I'll end my plane entirely by saying I still feel the exact same way I felt heading into the regular season. My win predictions anywhere in the 40 to 50 win prediction. I think we're going to be a playoff team this year. Expect the breakout from Jalen Green. Expect Şengün to be an all-star. I think we're going to be a team that's going to surprise a lot of people this year and put ourselves on the map. I think this is the year where we kind of do it. So I'm excited. I love what I saw for the most part from preseason. NBA starts Wednesday. We'll start the campaign to the playoffs then. Yeah.
Well, you just reminded me, I got to put my money down for this Rockets over under 43.5. I think that's ridiculously low. So yeah, I think Houston is going to win in that 48 to 50 range if all goes well. Only thing I learned from this preseason is Cam is really going to be that 10th man, and everything else pretty much the same. So yeah, I'm excited. They start with Charlotte. That should be a win, and they're going on to Memphis. But until then, Will and I may have another podcast lined up before that start of the season. If not, we'll see you guys for some regular season analysis. It's great to finally have this time of the year come back around. So we're both excited, and that was another episode of the Bradeaux Show. Unless you have anything else to say, Will. All right, yep. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.